I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from central British Columbia, Canada. And today we have a very, very special guest. Her name is Tara Wiskow, and Tara is an intuitive energy healer and a life and reinvention expert who helps people break free from self-abandonment, self-sabotage, and the cycle of people pleasing, as she transformed her own life, losing 220 pounds, amazing, naturally overcoming deep emotional struggles. Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to get to spend this time with you.
So it's amazing if I look at your bio, what you went through and the challenges along the way, obviously. So tell us about yourself as to where did it all start, where are you from originally, how did you go through the early stages, and overweight must have been the losing 220 pounds is amazing. That, tell us about that part of it, and then obviously now, if you allow me, at 85 years old, I'm going to be 85 in a week from now, you look beautiful, and I can say that. So tell us all about yourself.
Well, first, I have to say happy early birthday. And you absolutely do not look like you're going to be 85. And that's still young in my book, but happy early birthday. You're doing absolutely incredible.
Thanks, Tara.
You're welcome. So I live in actually the States right over the Canadian border. I have always been close to Canada in Minnesota. So only about an hour and a half from Winnipeg is where I grew up and continue to live there. I haven't left the area, and I don't know if I ever will.
It's a beautiful area.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in so many ways of being secluded from much of life and giving you such a community and connection with people that truly love you and give you that support. So it's wonderful in many ways. And to my journey of where I started, without realizing it, John, my transformation and my journey began when I was 8 years old. And it was, in fact, my 8th birthday. And I discovered on that day by accident that my dad, Junior, was actually my stepdad, and that I had a biological dad that had chosen not to be in my life when he found out that my mom was pregnant with me. And my mom didn't feel like that was something she wanted to share with me until I was older. And I've learned over the course of 46 years now that things happen exactly as they're meant to. There's no coincidences of how things roll out. And on that particular day, I needed to know that my dad, Bruce, existed and that there was a piece of me that lived somewhere else. And so on that day, having a secret told to me, discovering in an instant that I was somebody entirely different than who I thought I was. And I started to put these pieces together because a big part of this, John, is, as you can tell, I have brown hair and brown eyes. And when I discovered that my dad, Junior, was my stepdad, I started to see all the differences. My mom, my dad, Junior, my 2 sisters, they had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I began to see the incredible differences. And before that moment, I didn't see it. I was 8 years old. I wasn't supposed to see that. I wouldn't have seen, wow, you look radically different, Tara, from your entire family.
So what I find interesting in a way is that how did your mom plan it that way to when you turned 8 to then tell you, or was it coincidence that happened? Because it must have been an amazing shock to you that Dad Junior, as you call him, was not your real dad, but there was somebody else, Bruce, I believe you related to him, in your life. And was this planned, or because all of a sudden it would fall like a bomb on me? And saying, how did Did she plan it that way, or what happened?
She did not plan it, and it was as much a shock to her that I discovered it. It was actually came from my aunt who is developmentally delayed, and to her everything was shareable. She didn't know that there were such things as secrets, and so her and my grandparents happened to be in town and saw my dad Bruce. They ran across him when he was in town. He's a truck driver, so he was in the area, and when she and my grandparents got to our house for my birthday party, she came right up to me and said, Tara Lynn, I saw your dad. And I said, well, I know he's in the house. Like, yeah, this isn't anything big. And she said, no, silly, not your dad, Junior, your dad, Bruce. And so in that instant, I had no idea. However, there was this guy that came to almost every single family gathering that we had, and his name, John, was Bruce.
Oh
So
my.
in that second, my gears started turning. So I went right to the house and I walked into the kitchen. My mom was mashing potatoes, and Bruce was there on this day sitting across the kitchen. And I pointed to him and stood by my mom and I said, is that my dad? And my mom dropped the potato masher. She turned and looked at me. She had no idea what to say. And the only thing she could do is tell me to get back outside. That's it. No, yes, no, no, just get back outside. That's how. So, yeah, it was a bomb to discover it, but in the way I discovered it was even a bigger bomb because now I didn't understand why I couldn't know whether it was yes or no. And I had so many answers at the age of 8 that were, I was just told, you don't get to get them right now.
So that was not good, right? So
No,
no. So
no.
now Bruce was there with your mom in the kitchen. Where was Junior?
So this Bruce was actually not my dad. This was
Oh.
a different Bruce. Yeah,
Oh,
entirely different Bruce. Yeah, so that just adds to it, right?
oh my
Poor Bruce. He's like, what? Oh my gosh.
God. What?
My dad, Junior, was actually in the kitchen and he witnessed all of this. And something that still pulls at my heartstrings, even at the age of 8, I witnessed my dad, Junior. It still makes me emotional. Fear washed over his face. And days afterwards, he was so afraid that I wouldn't accept him and love him. And in his mind and in his heart, I was his first daughter.
Yeah,
And he was essentially my first dad. And
yeah.
that's all he knew. And from that day forward, though, a lot of doubt creeped in for me. A lot of acceptance became my currency, where I believed that I had to be perfect in all ways. I had to be the good girl. I had to show up and hit every mark right on in order to be accepted. I had this instant fear, and it wasn't because my family was telling me that I needed to do this. It was a belief that I created from this big bomb opening up and discovering that I had an entire family. Because not only did I have a dad that lived 5.5 hours away, I had 3 additional sisters, John. So in my mind, my dad, Bruce, said no to me, yet he could create 3 additional daughters and still not come into my life. And so a lot of that believing that I just wasn't good enough and that I had to be somebody that everybody wanted me to be started to become my reality, and shifting started to happen. I shifted to be liked. I shifted to be accepted. I shifted to be wanted. I was whoever I was supposed to be for whoever I was with. And that went into every area of my life. And it didn't stop until I was in, to be honest with you, probably 2 years ago, that it literally came to a screeching halt. But prior to 2 years ago, living in that way brought me to starting to turn to the one thing that never ever disappointed me, and that was food. I always knew that it was going to taste the way I knew it was going to taste. I always knew it would be there. It wasn't going to disappoint me. It was my best friend. It spoke to me. It allowed me to speak to it. I could cry when I ate it. I could laugh when I ate it. I could feel strong when I ate it. It gave me what I wasn't getting in connection with humans. And that caused me to radically put on a lot of weight in a very short amount of time and reach that point of 338 pounds.
I was going to say it must have brought you well into the 300-pound area, and now you just mentioned it, 338 pounds.
Yeah.
My God, you're giant then, but also
Right.
physically, your body is not meant to carry that weight, and so other things will happen to you at some
Hmm.
point earlier likely rather than later because it simply is not meant to be like that. So what happened then? So now you were in your, I presume, late 20s, early
Hmm.
30s, and all of a sudden you're carrying that weight and it affects everything that you do. So
Hmm.
what happened then to make you look at yourself and saying, I have to change? So take us further from the point you started to add weight and
Yep.
very quickly. So where was the trigger that all of a sudden you knew you had to start looking at weight as
Hmm.
a major issue that you had to try to deal with?
So the trigger was seeing myself as a mom and realizing that my three boys did not have the mom that I thought that I was going to be. And I was also in a marriage. We had been married for 9 years. A key point to this is I finally met my biological dad when I was 12. And I knew I belonged instantly when I saw him standing in the yard when my grandma and I pulled up. There was me, brown hair, brown eyes, the same smile, everything. We were mirrors. Our laugh was the same, our likes, everything was the same. And I belonged in that instant. It was absolutely incredible for the first time at the age of 12. And
But
then he
he
died.
was only a short distance away from you. I think you said
Five and a half, 5.5 hours. Yep.
five and a half,
Yep.
relatively speaking, close by.
Yep.
But took him after you found out at 8, it still took him 4 years longer before you made the real connection. By now, you
Mhm.
probably did a lot of research. You must have then found out that he had 3 daughters, which were stepdaughters indirectly of yours. You know that
Right.
he. So what took so long to make the connection after your 8th birthday?
Me. I was terrified to meet him. I
Yeah,
believed that he would abandon me, that he would say,
yeah,
"I don't want to meet her." And it was his mom, my grandma, that continued to encourage the connection of coming together. And he was patient. I found out years later that he would drive by and watch me play outside. And so he kept his distance of wanting to be in my life at that point and knowing that I wasn't ready.
right.
And so at the age of 12, I knew that it was time and I met him. And like I said, it was like coming home. I knew I belonged. It was the most beautiful experience. And then I was 15 and he died of cancer. And just like that, he was gone. And so after losing him, I was looking for love in all places and I met it in this man that reminded me of my dad. And I was engaged at 17 and married at 20. And I was a mom at 21. It was boom, boom, boom. I was looking for acceptance and love anywhere I could find it. And he promised it. And for 9 years, he was a great guy. We just weren't great together. And we had three boys. And by this point of being 28 years old, I realized that everything in my life was nothing of what I thought it would be or that what I wanted it to be. I was so radically unhappy. My body was unhealthy. Not only physically was I healthy, my mental space was unhealthy. I would speak so ill of myself. I didn't call myself Tara. I called myself Heifer Hannah. I would degrade myself in the mirror. I would laugh and I would cut myself down in social settings around friends because I perceive that they look at me and see this absolutely disgusting woman. And so I would say that in front of them because that's what I thought they felt. And this carried deep within and started to really tarnish my relationship with myself even further. And so at that point, I knew that something had to change. And I started to visit with my husband about me wanting to lose weight and get healthier and improve our relationship. And he didn't see a need. He felt like everything was fine. And I was on the entire other end of the spectrum. And I knew something needed to change. And after continuously fighting about it and coming back to the same place of him saying, I don't want to change, and I knew I had to, I ended up filing for divorce. And
So
at the age of 28,
were you then, you were then around 28, you were
mhm,
already so overweight substantially, or already
yep,
were you over 300 pounds at that point?
yep, yep.
Okay.
That's when I was at my heaviest of 338. Yeah.
And then
And
you filed
once
for divorce. Yeah.
I did, yeah. And I became a single mom, and I started the true journey of finding myself, of really discovering who Tara was without trying to fit in with anybody to be loved. I was so broken at that point that I really didn't care if anybody loved me. I just wanted to start to feel like I could be good enough for my boys. That was where I was at. And the journey got uglier from there, more deeper toxicity of struggles. I tried everything to lose weight and nothing worked. You know, those pills, they promise you that you're going to lose 60 pounds in 30 days. And they give you these vast and huge, beautiful beliefs of how they will work tremendously well. And then you implement them and it doesn't work. And so, of course, me, I'm instantly thinking, just like every other woman that goes through this, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing something good enough. I'm not good enough. I don't get to lose weight. And so that's when suicide entered into my life, where I got to the point of saying, I'll never be the mom that my boys deserve. They deserve to have an active mom, a mom that's happy, a mom that's not so angry all the time, a mom that can play with them at the park or ride bikes. And I got to the point of knowing that living just wasn't where I wanted to be anymore.
So the three boys are still with you. Tell us about them.
Oh my gosh. Oh, my oldest is Trevor. He will be 25 this year. I was 21 when I had him. Amazing. Absolutely such a strong young man and a very mature young man. Big heart, beautiful soul. My second son is Trey as well. Same, so much of the same. All three of my boys, Trevor, Trey, Treston, they are absolutely my pride and joy, but they've become my best friends. They've become men that I am so proud to be able to stand next to and say, I get to be their mom. We traveled a journey together, so many years of me being a single mom and fighting for my life, to want to live, fighting to lose the weight. And they were every part of it, John, every step of it, they were there with me. When I realized after my middle son saved my life, I was going to end my life, and he walked into the room and witnessed what he saw. And he asked me, are you going to die, mama? And in that second, he taught me at the age of 5 that I could have a choice. Him asking me that question pulled me out of where I was at. And I thought, Tara, you can choose if you're going to live or if you're not. Like, he's asking you. And the answer is yes or no. What are you going to tell him? And I knew that I would never lie to my boys after my secret that I discovered at 8. And in that second, I heard out of nowhere, Tara, you've got to learn to love yourself as much as you love your boys. That's your only way out of this. And I knew in that moment when I looked at Trey, I said, no, I'm not going to die. And from that second forward, I fought so hard to love myself. And my boys were with me when I looked in the mirror and I would look at myself and I would say, I love you, Tara. I'm grateful to be you. And my three boys stood there and they supported me and they watched that and they began to do mirror work with me. They would say, I love you, Trevor. I'm so grateful to be you. Like, they would say this back. And not only did I transform myself internally and as a result drop 220 pounds, it shifted something in them of creating a belief for themselves of how incredible they are and how amazing they get to be if they so choose to be.
So the most critical point in your life was when Trey, at 5, said, are you
Mhm.
going to die?
Absolutely. Yeah. Most
Amazing.
critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then how did you go forward? So that happened. Now from there on in, you wanted to live, you know,
Hmm.
and care about yourself and
Hmm.
the kids, obviously, and the three boys. And so how did you then approach the weight issue after you reconciled that you wanted to be here for them and
Hmm.
for yourself?
Yeah. I quit trying to find the magic pill, the weight loss drug. I stopped looking for it and I went in and I realized that the way to lose the weight was to love myself. I had tried everything else and the only thing I'd not done was love myself. And so I committed to speaking positive affirmations to myself. I committed to doing mirror work. I didn't even know about Louise Hayes. At that point, I just knew I needed to start speaking to myself in the mirror. And then I learned about her, and she shifted my life incredibly with her work. And I began to move my body the best I could. When I started, I could walk a quarter of a mile a day, and that was it. That's all I had. And I didn't stop. I kept pushing and I pushed and I pushed. And I got to the point that I was walking 10 miles a day. I was incorporating healthy eating rather than starving myself or and then going into binge eating. I no longer struggled with bulimia. I worked through to heal myself of that eating disorder. And I fueled my body with the foods that made me feel healthy. And again, the deepest part of it, John, was doing the piece of loving myself, knowing that the only way to get the body I desired and to feel happy in this life was learning to love the woman exactly as I was. Even though my body wasn't where I wanted it to be, I had to love her and she would show up.
So you mentioned the name of one lady, and I'd forgotten the name, that made you look in the mirror and talk to you.
Yeah.
Who is she, or what does she do? Because obviously that became a trigger for you as to how to interact with Tara. You,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the other name that you gave yourself, but this was Tara.
Yeah. So
Who was
Louise
the
Hayes,
lady that you related to?
Louise Hayes.
Okay.
She has, yeah, she does the mirror work and just incredible. I never got to meet her in person. However, I was able to get my hands on books and I was able to learn through YouTube videos and friends would send me little video clips of her training and talking. And it was doing the work that she provided in the mirror work connected me within. I was seeing more than what I saw on the outside. I was going in and seeing who I was on the inside. I was really uncovering everything about me, which at the age of 8, I shut that all down. I lost every bit about me because who I thought I was instantly became who I wasn't. I no longer knew who I was. And so from the age of 8 until 28, and probably we were at 36 by this point, I I was had no idea who I was. I didn't know. There was one time I filled out a resume, and the hardest part for me was filling out your hobbies. What do you enjoy to do? I'm like, I don't know what I enjoy to do. All I knew is I did what everybody else did. And so I asked my friends, what do you like to do? And that's what I put on my resume because I had no idea how to fill that part out.
So it's in a way it's funny, but it isn't because that is something a lot of people deal with, have dealt with, even including myself. It took a long time for me to figure out who am I,
Right.
and so that is something that is very very important, and that's why I love to have you on my podcast here, in
Thank
particular
you.
you, because of what you have gone through. But the who am I question is one that is part of a lot of persons, male, female, and that
Hmm.
are struggling with because of circumstances that may include trauma, like it did in your life, and a lot of other things, that who am I becomes critically important. And I like the part that you said with Louise Hayes, the
Hmm.
mirror part, I like that part in a way of being able to talk to Tara, not the other
Yes.
person, but that was critical to you changing direction, and that means starting to walk, a little bit and then more, and all of a sudden, then you reach, I presume, the threshold from where you recognize and saying, I'm starting to look better. Other people notice it because that's what happens in saying, hey, Tara, you're looking
Hmm.
great, or you're looking much better, or encouragement, and then staying the course, knowing that you now transitioned from not knowing who you were to even the most dramatic, where, your middle son, Trey, saved your life for all intents and purposes, that all of a sudden you start to like who you are. You want to
Hmm.
be loving you in order to love them. And then all of a sudden finding the way how to, through uh, Tris Hayes, talking in the mirror to you, and now finding that determination that you can. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden things start to change direction.
100%. That is exactly how it happened. And it was incredible. My life opened up, opportunities came to me. I realized that I had always been the one that was blocking them because my lack of belief in my ability, my lack of belief in that I deserve to be happy, that I deserve to be successful, that I could be. All those limiting beliefs that were holding me back from being the woman that I was created to be began to vanish and slip away and allowed me to create the body that I have now.
So, and then along the way, so now then you were already, as you went through the process, in your late 20s and early 30s, and then
Mhm.
gradually started to become who you are now. And I'm not asking for ages are, but I presume that it was probably 15, 20 years that it took you to once finding out about Tris Hayes, and you finding the way of talking to yourself and starting to work on your physical you, but
Yep.
also diet and caring about and loving yourself, that gave you the ability to go beyond that. And so that must have been an amazing journey, because all of a sudden you see improvements taking place physically, mentally, the combination of it all, and your three sons obviously watching you in the process, that changed your life as you went through
Absolutely.
it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think too, like a lot of me, the physical like alteration and transformation of my body happened over the course of time. And I also felt like I lost a big piece of my identity. And I also needed to lose another piece because, and the reason why I say that is I lived for a lot of time still believing that I was that 338-pound woman. And so I lived in that space of fearing that if I took the wrong step, if I did the wrong thing, that I would instantly like wake up the next day and lose everything that I'd worked really hard for. And so that's where I mentioned 2 years ago, all of that came to a head of really realizing that even though my external reality had completely transformed, on the inside was still living in a lot of turmoil of believing that I could lose it all. That I didn't have that. I still believed I could be abandoned. Again, that abandonment was my currency. That I could be abandoned by all good things that came into my life. The shoe will drop at any point. This can all go away. I didn't have that belief integrated within me yet that it truly was mine to keep and that I could keep it and that I was in control. I talk a lot with my women that I work with that we oftentimes are in the passenger seat and we're giving somebody else the right to drive our life. Like they're taking us to our end destinations and determining what our life looks like. And we believe that that's what we have to do. in order to keep people in our life or to keep love in our life. And 2 years ago in June, I unexpectedly lost my baby sister to cancer. She was diagnosed at Christmas with stage 4 bile duct cancer. And by June, she had complications and a surgery, and we had to let her go. And in that second, 5 days after the burial service, I was sitting outside at this on our swing right outside our pond, and I continued to be hit with these thoughts of, did Trisha live her best life? Was she happy? She was only 39 years old when she passed away. Like, did she get to do everything she wanted to do? Was she living her fullest life? And I kept asking these questions, and I was getting angrier and angrier by the second because I couldn't get the answers that I wanted. And out of nowhere, I realized this real true anger and the real questions that I wanted to ask, but I didn't think I could, was, am I living my fullest life? Who am I? Have I truly become who I wanted to be? Or am I still living behind this mask of believing that I have to be whoever it is in my life that they want me to be? And so, in that second of realizing that that's really was what I was wanting to know, I realized that my inner world was still complete turmoil and that I was still hiding behind false identities. I was continuing to be whoever Tara needed to be with whoever that I was with. And I began to go deeper into more work of asking myself, who are you? What do you like? Again, back to that resume. And I went for an hour and a half working on writing everything that I knew about myself to be true. And after an hour and a half, I had written down that I was a mom of 3 boys, that I loved dogs, that I did not like winter, that I loved summer, and I loved to read. All very like externally factual things, nothing inner. I still didn't know who I was, which then made me understand why I continued to feel like something was missing from my life. I would continuously feel like, what's missing? Something's missing. Why can't I figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life? And I realized that I was what was missing. I had learned to love myself enough to lose the weight, yet I hadn't loved myself enough to let me emerge and to be me, to be in my fullest authenticity of just saying, hi, I'm Tara. This is who I am, and this is what I love, and this is what I'm going to do. And so that's where we're at now.
And that's the process that you are in now still. How does it
Yeah.
feel so far? And what then was the trigger, like, for recognizing Tris, that with the mirror was a critical point in your life? Trey was first when you nearly decided to leave this earth.
Mhm.
And then obviously the next was Tris Hampton, with the mirror was a critical point. And then 2 years ago, when Trista, your sister,
Mhm.
passed away on cancer, that came reality to you. That's still all very recently. So
Yeah.
where are you now in the process of saying, who am I really? And am I at peace with who I am now? Where are you in that particular process?
Yeah. So I'm in what I call my 3-step process. It's called the Bitchin' Way, and Bitchin' is BTCHYN for Be the Change You Need, which is my company name. And I am in the unravel. I believe that everything that we go through, we have to unravel in life. Whether it doesn't matter what it is, unravel, upgrade, and then to up level. And so I'm continuing to unravel, and I'm also in the upgrade and the up level in certain parts of my life. And as I'm unraveling, I'm unbecoming who I've thought I've had to be. I am letting layers and layers go. I'm releasing limiting beliefs. I am releasing out energetic bonds and blockages within me that have kept me stuck being who I thought I've needed to be. Going in and doing inner childhood healing work to go back to that 8-year-old self, and even before that, even before in that time frame where I wasn't aware of things that were occurring around my birth, before my birth, going deeply into that to uncover those moments of decision that I decided a belief was true for me, and using neurolinguistic programming as a practitioner to release it out of me to give me freedom from those beliefs that are blocking me. And so that's where I am now. And it feels absolutely amazing. And it's scary. There's always, I'm sure, John, as you've went through so many things in your life, I can't imagine that you haven't at the young age of 84 years old, that there are so many things that it feels amazing and it feels so in alignment and right. Yet there are those days where it's really, really scary. And there's a lot of turmoil, but blockages that you have to get up and over. But the difference now is that everything that I come up against feels like it's a lesson that I'm meant to learn from so that I can get to the other side of it. And the other side of it is that breakthrough. And it feels like everything that I get to go through is happening for me. Whereas before I was in that victim mentality of everything happening to me, I know that's not true anymore. Everything's coming into my life for me to give me that ability to learn and to grow and to progress through it. And it's such a beautiful experience to be able to be there. And also that I'm traveling it and I'm able to help women through it as well because I'm in it. I'm linking elbows with them and taking them through it with me.
I find this so interesting, Sarah, is that I know it for myself, as you indicated, I've gone through a lot in the 85 years, and then in trauma as well, that took me to, with my now wife, we have been together for 42 years, that we had challenges along the way, and so in sought counseling, which is always the right thing to do in circumstances. Males don't come natural to that, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. We did at the point. And so then the counselor said that at some point I like to have a discussion with John alone because the issue of the inner child is still there with him, and that relates to the war years and all those things. And so we decided together to do that. And I already was in my 50s.
Wow.
Very emotional, but
Yes.
very helpful in a way as well. But that little boy was still there. And until it was reconciled, it was still an issue. And it was amazing that through counseling, they recognized that. And then together we agreed to do that. But very, very important. So, and those are some of the things that I'm hearing you sharing with us as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I am so grateful that your counselor was able to tap into that that was something that was affecting your ability to show up in your marriage in the way that you likely wanted to. And I think that's the most confusing piece of childhood work is that we show up in a way that it doesn't feel right to us, yet we don't know how to show up in any other way than how we are. And it hurts others. And I love the statement, hurting people hurt others, and it's because we're hurting. And so often it's that inner child that just has not been heard, or it hasn't been healed, or it's needing something so deeply profound that it didn't get as a child. And we've just, men and women included, quiet it. We numb it. We tell it that it has to be quiet. We tell it to go in the corner and stop having issues. You don't get to cry. You don't get to be sad. You don't get all these things. And with time, we disconnect and we lose ourselves. And we begin to operate in the only way that we know how. And I believe that that is a broken way. And so that's why my very first step is of a transformation is to unbecome. Because if you don't unbecome, if you don't unravel and release out all that does not serve you, no longer belongs, you can never have a true transformation that is going to be sustainable because you're only trying to cover up what is affecting your ability to be your truest self. And so we have to unravel from that. I love to look at a vehicle. My husband is a car guy. He restores classic vehicles. And so I love to look at it that is whenever he goes to paint his vehicles, he has to sand it all down. He has to take all the paint off and
Yeah.
bring it down to its bare body. And that's what we have to do. We as humans have to do that. We have to fully unravel everything within and bring us down to our just our clearest body. And then we can begin to upgrade and reprogram ourselves with our highest goods and reprogram the beliefs that we once believed to be true that we now know were false beliefs. They were lies, and rewrite our story and then uplevel to become the man or the woman that we desire to be.
So I saw a picture that I want you to talk about that from this one here as part
Yes.
of your bio. So tell us about this.
That is Be the Change You Need. That is my company name. It is that picture. The woman that is in the blue with the trees, that is me. And the woman with the face is the women that I work with. And so I'm in their mind, I'm shifting their thoughts, I'm in the neuroplasticity of it, where we are altering our beliefs and the stories and radically releasing out what no longer serves us. And so the tree limbs is the energy, it's the intuitive ability as a life reinvention expert that I have to be able to go within and know and uncover where are the blocks, what are the thoughts that we have, where in your body are you holding on to trauma that is not serving you and energy is not flowing. And because energy is not flowing, you're becoming ill, you have dis-ease in your body, and this is breaking you down. And so that is my company, that's my logo, and it speaks to what I do and who I am
Yeah, I
today.
find the picture unique in particular because, and that's why I showed it at this point, because we covered a lot of areas already, and that's all in that picture, really.
Yes,
All those
yes,
elements,
absolutely.
so, and so what do you do now is that, in a way, I feel that, but I've experienced that number of things that I have an obligation to share with others, and they may be of help to others. And
Mhm.
I try to, with my podcasting, that is such an amazing media. It's the new media globally. Can you imagine this? That what we see is CNN, NBC, BBC, Canadian Broadcasting System, all of those are going down, and viewers, same as the media in newspapers, but what is exploding in my mind is the podcasting media, where we share with thoughts like you and me never met other than
Mhm.
through your bio. And there, here we are sitting having very personal discussions about the very challenges in our lives and sharing that with virtually millions of people around the world. And those
Yeah.
are not unique to you and me, but where
Mhm.
it allows you and me to share our experiences, that where a lot of times people look at individuals, and but all lives have complications. All lives usually have some form of trauma to them, in some sort of fashion. And hopefully, it will become an inspiration to see discussions like you and me are having, Tara, of
Mhm.
opening the door to others that can share in this amazing podcasting uh, media form with others around the
Mhm.
world, their experiences, and that's so
Yeah.
unique. So what I do in my podcasting, in particular, you're my podcast
Mhm.
number 479, and
Wow.
so yeah, well, thank you. It's amazing, and the and very very powerful. We have over 1 million subscribers at YouTube, and so we know that people are watching around the world. So how can they
Mhm.
contact you? Have you got a contact for your company, and tell us what you would do with people that want to contact you and find out more about what they can do for you or with them? Have you got your um, podcast or
Mhm.
your Facebook, or
Yeah.
how did they
So
contact you?
the best place to start would be at my website, which is www.tara and then the dash, like you'd see in a telephone number, wiskow.com.
Okay.
And then on there, you're going to be brought into who I am. Like I really lay it out who I am. And from there, you'll see that I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have TikTok. I also have my own podcast, Be the Change You Need podcast, where I'm also connecting with individuals and having these conversations and a lot of solo conversations as well. So those would be the best places to connect with me. And what I do when somebody has questions, I really am all about connecting and having conversations. And I love to get to know people and their struggles and what they're wanting. And so I love having a conversation. We set up a call and we will talk for 30 to 45 minutes to understand where are they coming from, what are their struggles, what could be their blocks. And if we feel like it's a good fit of us having a conversation and potentially working together, then I'll share with them how I feel like I could be of a benefit or a service in their life with the work that I do as an intuitive life reinvention expert. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. I just find it amazing that the through a format like podcasting, that we can reach so many people throughout the world, and there we are sitting. You are in close to the U.S. border or just across the U.S. border, and me from Central British Columbia,
Yeah.
and really communicating with the rest of the world. It is amazing, that the people that we can reach. So how would you say, like in your case in particular, it's so amazing in the conversation is that you have three sons,
Yeah.
then you married again, you met then your real dad, Bruce,
Mhm.
and when you were 12, and then you married again and have another three sons, and so amazing, or sorry, another three daughters, and unfortunately one died of cancer, and so your whole life is so unique and so amazing. So where do you go from here, Tara?
Where I go from here is continuing to have that outreach to women who need what I offer, the services. I am working so diligently of healing women from the beliefs that are holding them back and keeping them stuck, believing that they don't get to live the life that they desire and that they have to keep playing small. I am meeting the women where I was, and I am helping them rise up to where I am, to where it's the right fit for them. We are getting rid of all the layers of garbage that doesn't serve them so that they can stand up and that they can lead. And I believe that when women rise up and begin to lead, the men in their life also rise up with them, and it's about becoming united and working together in this life, because we need more connection, we need more love, we need more feelings of unity together. That's what the world is missing, and we need that. And so often we women, we keep ourselves hidden and we follow the rules that we think are set there by the men or the other family members, and we don't show up as our true selves. And when we don't do that, we don't give our gifts to the world. And so I'm helping women realize that they have a gift and it needs to be seen and it needs to be given, and the healing allows that to happen for them. And so I'm continuing with my programs and my podcast, and I'm also stepping on the stage and beginning to travel the world to speak in conferences and at events to reach women there.
And that was another question that I have, is that I found that at the latter part in my life is that a lot of people said to me, for over the years that I've done so many things. You should write a book about it. And writing books is not easy. And for about 20 years, I started, then stopped, started and stopped. And then when I already was in my mid 70s, I knew if I didn't do it now, it would never happen. So I wrote my first book, 80 Years to Live It, 20 years to think about it, 2.5 years to write, against all odds. And it's not about how successful John is, but it's more about all the challenges along the way, and that's what it is about. And then the other part that changed my life, and writing is important for me, and the same is presenting, being a speaker in different settings all over the place. I've done, and I love to do, is sharing with others. And then when I started to explore forms of podcasting, initially what I did is blogging on a local level here in central British Columbia, and then started working with a local television station here, did it again on a local basis. And then what happened is COVID started, and I couldn't do that anymore because I was not allowed in there. And so then I had this apartment that I had as an investment in, saying, well, maybe what we should do is make a studio out of it. Well, we did. And so that's where I am now. And then the other part happened, again, using mainly people in the region. And then about 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago, started looking at some of the televisions that I saw, is saying where they are interviewing people from 1, 2, 3, 4 from all over the world, and saying maybe what we should try to do is do virtual. And so we started then connecting with podcasting, and that was probably 2.5 years ago. And now obviously what we are doing is podcasting. Most of our guests now are from all over the world, and we do podcasting. And as we already concluded, it's still at its infancy around the world. So it's the new form. And so I'm also looking at potentially setting up a platform, so on the podcasting, but then going to the next level, and again sharing a lot of the experiences. And then I'm a communicator, I'm a storyteller more than anything. And I do with all the things that I do with my books and all of that, so I really enjoy that. Have you thought
You're very
about
good at
a
it.
book? Have you thought about a book at all, Tara?
Yeah. The title of it right now is 338 Pounds to Empowered. And it's it's sitting there. The title is beautifully written. I mean, it got the whole, visual, but the words are waiting to be written.
Well, you have the story, an amazing story. All of it,
Thank you.
so is a real inspiration. And, certainly I'm delighted to have you on my podcast. Again, give us your contact once more, address, and then also your podcast one as well before we go.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. It's been an absolute delight to get to have the conversation with you and spend this time. And again, my website is www.tara-wiskow.com. And my podcast is Be the Change You Need, which can be found on Apple or Spotify. And it'll also be, if you go to my website, all of my social media as well as the podcast will be connected right there.
And then for all the people watching us, if you like what we are doing, then subscribe to us, both Tara and myself. Share our podcast with other guests and liking it, and give us ideas about anything else that you may think. We love the podcasting. We like to do more of it with more people around the world as it goes. Again, Tara, it was a pleasure and a privilege to have you on my podcast. I really, really enjoyed being part of you. We want to stay in touch as we go forward, and at some point, maybe you invite me on your podcast. Who knows, right? Stay in
Yes,
touch
I
with
would love
Scott.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I would love to have you as a guest and I'd love to stay in touch. Thank you for today. I really have loved every single second of it. And I love that you do what you do and you do a very good job of it. You're connecting the world together with important stories and messages. So keep being you.
Thanks, Tara. Take care.
You're
Oh, yeah. The
welcome.
other
You
thing I
too.
should mention to you as well, my podcast, we release them within 2 hours. So
Okay.
very quickly, and we unedited. It is what it is, and I've done that with all my podcasts. Within 2 hours, we release them unedited. That's what it is, and that's what I like about it. That's what makes our podcast unique. And
Yeah,
so again,
I
thanks,
like
Sarah.
that.
Yeah, you like.
Thank you. Take
Okay.
care. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Take care. Bye bye.